Thank you for joining the Responsibility channel, where we teach you how to take responsibility for your happiness, your success, and your freedom. So today we're going to talk about 3 indications that you are dealing with a narcissistic boss, right? These are 3 indications that you're dealing with a narcissistic boss. And I'm going to give you 4 ways you can deal with a narcissistic boss, okay? So the first reason that you know you're dealing with the narcissistic boss is that boss operates in confusion. They love confusion. He or she is never direct in their orders. They're never direct in what they're trying to tell you to do. They always have this wishy-washy type of delivery. So you're always confused in what it is that they want you to do. Number 2, a narcissistic boss, they love to divide and conquer. And what I mean by this is they love to turn the team members, the staff members, against one another. They love gossiping, creating chaos. As I've stated, what they would do is the narcissistic boss will pit, they call it pit or put, one team member against another. Okay, what she would do is she would say something to one team member, tell a lie, and say that someone else said it. She loves to divide and conquer, love to turn the entire staff against one another. She loves to operate in that, right? This is how you know you're dealing with the narcissistic boss. A narcissistic boss is very jealous and insecure. They think they know everything. And if they find out someone knows more than they know, or are a little confident, or has more information in a certain area, it's not that that person is competing. If someone has knows more information than them, they're going to attack that person's character. They're going to attack that person's ability to do the job. Like if a person is secure in doing their job, that narcissistic boss is going to make the coworker life a living hell, because that person is intelligent. That person knows what they're doing, right? This is how you know you're dealing with the narcissistic boss, right? So this is how you deal with the boss who's narcissistic. Never trust that boss's word, right? Never trust their word. Always communicate with them via email. Even if they're upset with you, communicate everything via email. If that boss gives you orders, make sure that you send a follow-up email per our conversation, XYZ. I don't care if they get mad, always communicate via email. Another way you can deal with the narcissistic boss is to make sure you keep a personal journal. Keep a personal journal of everything they tell you to do, everything that you feel is important. Write down a date and time, right? Date and time. This is a way that you can keep track of the things that's happening, in that department or on your job. Because one thing about a narcissistic boss, on these jobs, a lot of the managers and directors, and some of them are narcissistic themselves, but a lot of like HR, they don't understand what goes on in those departments, because you have gatekeepers in those departments. You have people that know what's going on, but they're not going to say anything because it's going to make them look bad as the director or as the manager. So they keep a lot of that stuff under wraps. They keep a lot of it hidden. And a lot of people are suffering on these jobs with these narcissistic bosses. A lot of people are walking away from these jobs because they just can't deal with the boss, right? And I heard somewhere, it was one of those personal development gurus. I'm not sure who it is. I don't know if it was John Maxwell. I don't know if it was Dr. Miles Monroe. It was somebody who said this, and it's so true. It said that people do not leave jobs. People do not resign from jobs. People leave managers. And that is so true. People leave managers. They resign from managers. They don't leave the job, because a lot of people love their jobs. most people who leave these jobs, good people, they're leaving because they have a lousy manager. They have a manager that really don't know how to treat people. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to interact with adults. They want to treat the staff as if they're children instead of a team member, right? A co-partner, a co-staff member. They want to call, the staff subordinates. There is no one sub below me. When I was in a supervisor, when I was in management, I didn't treat staff as if they were below me, right? I treated people like adults. I didn't micromanage. I didn't do any of that because that's just not my style. If you hire someone, you should trust them to do the job. You don't have to micromanage them. If you don't trust people, don't hire them. If you got to micromanage, if you got to watch everything they do, you shouldn't hire people you trust. That's poor management. But also another way to deal with the narcissistic boss is to make sure for your record, call the complaint line. You can call, they have a 1-800 number on your job. Be careful with that also, because sometimes people have connections and they know who called what, but still call, because you need to cover your bases. You need to make sure you're making a complaint, because if you're being harassed, if you're being bullied on the job by the narcissist, you really don't have anyone to go to, because HR sometimes is not on your side. I won't say sometimes, majority of the time, they're there for that company. And if you're dealing with the boss who's narcissistic and he or she have allies, it is hard for you to navigate through that on the job. So many people have dealt with these narcissistic bosses. They're so insecure. They bully their staff. They treat them like crap. I didn't mean to use that word, but I didn't have anything else to use in this moment, shooting this video. They treat them, very bad and treat them like they're children. So the staff don't know who they could turn to. They don't have anyone on their side. In a lot of these companies, you're losing good people because of the management you placed in your companies. You have a lot of these managers, they're bullies, they're insecure, they have mental health issues that they need to deal with, and they're taking it out on the people who are closest to them, and that's their staff. And I know it's very hard to detect this stuff, but as an employer, if you have someone who's in a position and they have staff that is leaving and it's a revolving door in that department, that is a red flag. You need to pay attention to that. When you have staff leaving a department and you're not questioning why the staff is leaving. You have people that have been there 20, 30 years and they're leaving a company and no one is questioning that the people are leaving. Good people. That is a problem. That's something you need to look into. That is a management problem. That is not an employee problem. That is a management problem. It is a management problem. So you can call the 1-800 number. You can file a complaint and let them know what is going on, right? You have to be careful with that, because sometimes on these jobs, you have certain people behind the scenes that take those calls, and they may be a friend of a friend. But if things are so bad and you need your job and you feel like you're being harassed, it's time to file a complaint. Don't be intimidated. File a complaint and document that in your personal journal. File the date you've made the complaint and what you said, right? And document that in your personal journal. Because there are a lot of people on these jobs who are being bullied by these managers, narcissistic managers, who are being just harassed over and over. And it's not fair. The employers really don't know. Some of the managers know, but a lot of times they don't know. A lot of times these narcissistic managers, they bully and intimidate these people and have them afraid to speak up, right? They have them afraid to speak up because they know they've seen person after person leave and no one really did anything. So employers, make sure you be careful and manage and watch the staff that is leaving that department. If you had people that's been there 13, 14 years and they're leaving and they really don't have a job, they don't have anything lined up, that's a red flag. That's a sign. You need to investigate that area. Don't let good people walk off from these jobs and you don't question what is going on unless you really don't care. Then if you don't care, You really don't have to do anything, right? And the number 4 way you can deal with the narcissistic manager, you have to pray. I believe in prayer, right? I believe in God. And sometimes when you pray and you ask God, is this job worth my mental health? Is there something better for me out there? Like when you ask God, because God may have sent you to that job to deal with that narcissistic boss to teach you a lesson, right? He sometimes he does that. But sometimes he would tell you, you would feel an unction in your spirit that it's time to go. Pray and ask God, is it worth your mental health? You staying on the job dealing with a narcissistic boss. You staying on the job being abused. Because that's what it is. When you're dealing with a narcissistic boss who's very insecure, that is abuse. And they're, harassing you. They don't want to give you days off. And when the company allows PTO, they try to bully you from taking days off. They try to make you feel bad for taking days off because they don't know how to manage. They're a poor manager. So they want to make you obligated to fulfill their needs, right? Because they don't know how to manage. That's not your problem. I tell anybody, if you're on these jobs and your job has PTO, which is paid time off, you are obligated to take that time. That is your benefit for working for that company. But you have some of these narcissistic bosses and managers. I'll say a manager. They're not bosses. Well, they're really not managers. That's all they are, managing your stress. But when you have some of these narcissistic managers, because they're not leaders, there's a difference between a leader and a manager. That's just what they are, a manager. When you have some of these narcissistic managers, what they'll do is they'll intimidate you, try to threaten you and bully you into being afraid of putting in a PTO request. And it shouldn't be like that. If you are an adult, if you are old enough to fill out an application and that company hires you, right, to do a job, taking days off shouldn't be a problem. Taking days off shouldn't be a problem. That is a benefit. Don't let these narcissistic managers bully you into not taking days off, bully you into being afraid to take vacation, being afraid to take a mental health day. That is your benefit. That's why the company gave you paid time off. You get paid to take that time. Regardless if they have someone to fill that position or not, that is their job. It is not your obligation to find a replacement for yourself. That's not your obligation. That's their job as a manager. Yes, that's their job, right? If they treated you right, you wouldn't mind, moving your vacation around. You wouldn't mind doing things for them. A lot of these narcissistic managers like to operate in intimidation and control. And when they can't intimidate and control you, they want to try to get rid of you. They want to try to fire you. They want to try to be petty and find little small things to nitpick, on about you, right? So you have to remember, you're dealing with the narcissistic boss. If it's confusion, that's number 1. They like to divide and conquer, which means they like to turn the staff against one another. Number 3, they're very insecure. You will notice that insecurity in them. And you can smell it from a mile away, right? They're very insecure because they try to make it seem like they know everything. And Rich, they don't know everything. No one knows everything. But with the narcissistic boss, they know everything. They're too smart for their own good. This is when you know you're dealing with the narcissist. But how you deal with that is communicate with them by email, right? Because they're never direct with you. They'll tell you to do one thing, and if you listen to it and not write it down or email them, they'll turn around and tell you they didn't tell you to do that. So they leave you confused and questioning your sanity. That's a form of gaslighting too, if you didn't know. That's a form of manipulation and gaslighting, making you question your reality. He or she told you to do X, Y, and Z. So when you do X, Y, and Z, it's like, I didn't tell you to do that. Well, why did I do it? I just didn't think of myself, right? So be careful with that. Keep a personal diary of everything that they say and do, anything that is important to the mistreatment that they're, imparting on you. Make sure you keep a personal diary. That's important. You put a date and time. My manager told me to do XYZ, but you also follow that up by email. But you want to write XYZ on this day. She's told me to, cover for such and such. Whatever it is that you think is important to remember, write it down in your diary. So you can go back and refer to it if something were to happen. Because you can't trust them. You can't trust the narcissistic boss. Everything has to be in writing or followed up by email, right? Remember, also, file a complaint. You can call the compliance line on your job. File a complaint. Let them know what's going on, right? Let them know, you're being harassed, you're being bullied. The boss is nitpicking. Everything you do, they're nitpicking. Because if you're an adult, as I've stated, there's no reason your boss should be on your back all the time. If they have to do that, they shouldn't have hired you. To all the managers who's listening to this, if you're in a management position, don't hire people you don't feel you can trust or who you don't feel capable of doing the job, so you don't have to micromanage. Micromanaging is a form of control. You have an issue and you have to deal with that. That's something personal you're dealing with. You shouldn't have to micromanage the people you hire. Hire them to do the job and let them be. Let them make mistakes. No one is perfect. Let them make mistakes, right? And number 4, how to deal with them. Pray. You have to pray and ask God, is it even worth you staying there dealing with the narcissistic manager? Is it worth your time? Is it worth your sanity? It may not be worth it, right? He may be telling you to leave and you didn't want to leave. Now you have to deal with that narcissistic manager. Or he may be telling you to stay. That's why you have to have your own personal relationship with God, because he'll tell you what to do. You will feel that unction on what to do. Sometimes he will have you stay and deal with that narcissistic manager so he can humble you, so he can do a work in you. Because sometimes God sends us in the path of these narcissists. So guess what? You can learn your lesson so you can grow and develop. And when it's time to go, God will promote you right on up out of that department. Send you to another facility or another, department or another organization. But he wants to do a work in you. So this is how you know you're dealing with the narcissistic boss. And please leave a comment, leave a comment. Let me know your experience. Have you ever dealt with a narcissistic boss? Because these narcissists are out here running rampant. People really didn't understand what was going on. And to be honest, a narcissist is a person who's dealing with evil spirits, right? They're dealing with demonic spirits. You can take this how you want to. You don't have to believe it, but this is what I've experienced, right? This is something I know and what I've experienced. Because for people to be as heartless and cold as a narcissist, there's no way that is normal behavior. They have no empathy. They don't think about people. They don't think about the hurt that they're doing to people on these jobs. They don't know that, there are people who are single moms who have, disabled children, and they're just trying to go to work and make a living for their family. They're just trying to go to work to make sure they have insurance for their disabled child, right? Or insurance for themselves. But you got people out here not thinking about people's welfare, not thinking about others and what they have to do at home or what they have going on in their personal lives, because people don't care. These narcissistic managers don't care. They don't care about that. They're only about themselves. They're not thinking about the people as a whole, their department as a whole. Now, don't get me wrong. You can't always take on people's personal issues and what they have going on. But also, you don't have to make people's life a living hell, because sometimes people are going through hell on at home, and when they come to their job, they're just trying to find a little inkling of peace. So you don't know what people have going on in their personal lives. Just leave people alone. Let them do the job that you hired them for and not harass them, right? But these narcissists are out here, right? These managers, they're out here. They're causing havoc in people's life. But this is not the time, right? This is not the time to be causing havoc in people's lives. Because guess what? A lot of people are not taking. A lot of people can't handle a lot of the pressures anymore. And a lot of people are just, they're snapping. They're snapping because they are tired of being bullied. They are tired of dealing with people who just constantly provoke them, right? They're tired of it. So if you are this type of manager And if you're micromanaging, if you're harassing people on the job, this is your warning to stop. This is your warning to stop. Stop harassing people. Stop micromanaging. Stop throwing your weight around in your titles because you're insecure, right? You're insecure and you want to throw your weight around and you want to intimidate and bully people and make people feel bad and threaten for their jobs, right? Stop dangling that carrot over people's head, dangling that job over their heads as if you got their whole life in your hand. This is not the time to be doing people that way. Because people are not taking a lot of that pressure that people have been dishing out to them. If you don't want to manage, and if you don't want to boss and be a manager or a leader, don't apply for those positions. Don't apply for them. I know you can't please everyone, but you cannot and should not be mistreating people because you have a title. You shouldn't be throwing your insecurities around because you have the title manager and boss. This is not the time to be doing that. So thank you for listening to I won't say rant. Thank you for listening to my channel. Thank you for listening to, my topic. How do you know you're dealing with a narcissistic boss? Thank you. Please share, like, subscribe. Be blessed.